The Ryen Russillo Show is presented by DraftKings. Loaded show for you today. Run through an hour of NBA stuff, including this Chris Paul news. But we've got everything from Tatum to trade market to buying into the new East. And then we have Clark Lea, the head coach of Vanderbilt. We talked to him before we saw the rankings come out last night. But really the bigger question is just how do you turn around a Vandy team from 2-10 to 10-2? He's been terrific. So that was a lot of fun. Life advice, including live entertainment. One touchdown can change everything. The crowd, the momentum, the game itself. It never gets old. Look, every Drake May touchdown feels like one touchdown on the march to history. That's what it feels like every single time. Fade, deep, doesn't matter. Imagine when he has just stud wide receivers. Imagine when he ages. Feel that same rush with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, where every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. With DraftKings Sportsbook, all the action's in your hands. First touchdown, anytime TD, live bets, every play, every snap, every game matters. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. Here's the best part. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. When your team hits the end zone, you could hit the payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code Ryen. That's code Ryen, R-Y-E-N. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Chill.
By now, I get the Russillo hoodie free. Call 1-800.
European theater.
The week is the Oregon Duck.
We need a big push here.
Quarter way into the NBA season, a lot to get caught up on, and fired up to talk to Chris Mannix from SI and also the Open Floor, the SI NBA show podcast. Comes out multiple times a week, so make sure you check that one out. Good to see you. What's up?
What's happening, Ryan?
Nothing. Look, last couple nights locked in and going through a bunch of different things. I think I want to start in the East because we have this collection of teams where, normally I come up with a list of like, all right, which teams, if, hey, this team's holding up the trophy at the end, like which are the non-surprise teams? And then when does it start to get weird and you feel like you're reaching? If you kept it to just the East, like who could come out of the East, I got to be honest with you, like this is the most open mind I probably ever had, at least in recent memory that I can think of, because, look, I like Detroit a lot. This Miami story is incredible. Toronto's exceeded expectations. I really like Orlando still, Cleveland, the Knicks, Boston. I mean, you just keep going on and on. Where are you with this conference?
Yeah, you got to go 6, maybe 7 deep if you want to, and we can engage on Boston in a minute and kind of what they could look like by the end of the season. But 6 teams at the top of the conference, I think could all come out of it. I really like what I've seen lately from Orlando. Like they were my pick, trendy pick to make the conference finals at the start of the season. Got off to that rocky start, but they've started to put some things together and start to look more like the team that we thought they'd be at the start of the season. The Cavs have been kind of a mystery. I'm wondering if better health and more time on the floor for Darius Garland is going to get them back to being the team they were at the end of last season. They were my pick to start the year to come out, if for no other reason they had the chemistry, the continuity going in. But I mean, you can't rule any of these teams out. Like the Knicks lost in Boston, but they've been pretty good. The Raptors, I don't know about yet. Defensively, do they have enough to get it done in the postseason? Miami, does this Noah LaRoche 3 seconds or less offense that they're running, does that work in the postseason? I'm not so sure. But
I love that you call it 3 seconds or less. I mean, like we've moved on as if 7 was too slow. But
doesn't
that's
it feel
how they
that
play.
way though? Yeah, it feels that way. They're just running and gunning. So, I mean, I think it's fun to watch, and it was hilarious watching them just boat race the Clippers the other night. But when the game slows down, it becomes a possession game in the playoffs. Does it still work the same way? The problem is there's nobody up there that really scares you. I mean, the Pistons have been great. They've won a ton of close games. I was looking this up the other day in the context of the Mavericks, who have played the most, clutch games this season and have lost a whole bunch of them. The team right behind them was the Detroit Pistons. They've won a whole bunch of them. So the Pistons have have been in a lot of competitive games and pulled them out. But, do they have enough 3-point shooting to win in the playoffs? Duncan Robinson's really their only consistent 3-point shooting threat, or the most consistent guy. So I think you can go 6-7 deep with teams that can win this entire conference.
If we start with Miami, let me throw you some pace numbers because I was looking at it again this morning because it's absurd. So, and that Clippers game was like the epitome of everything that is right and wrong with both teams. And it felt like the Clippers, you can get into the road trip and the travel and all that kind of stuff, but it's not like they've been good this year. But it was so alarming to see how out of it the Clippers were when Miami goes on what I think it was like a 32-4 run. And it looks like Wiggins is 5 years younger. It's this perfect thing, or perfect's extreme, but it's like if you're not ready, and the Clippers feel like with whatever they're trying to run out there, like the most not ready team. Like if you're not ready, this is going to get ugly quick. And that's exactly what happened. And I was looking at the pace stuff again, historically for Miami. We know they're number one this year. Here's their last few seasons in pace: 28th, 29th, 29th, 28th, 29th, 27th when they went to the finals, 23rd, 27th. I mean, it just goes on and on. The best number I could come up with in the last 15 years is 16th. That's the best pace they've had in like 15 years here. So I think there's probably a conversation.
You have to go back to like, I think that 16th was like one of the LeBron years in the early 2010s. Like, yeah, it was a long time ago.
Right. And LeBron wasn't exactly somebody, this is kind of like an aside on LeBron. Like whenever he would get younger players, I remember when the Lakers had that first offseason with him, it's like, oh, they're going to run the floor. They're going to be athletic. They're going to get out. It's like, LeBron doesn't want to do that. Like he's the smartest guy out there. He just wants to dissect everything you're doing. So emphasizing pace with LeBron, especially peak LeBron, didn't even really make any sense. So they've changed this whole thing around. And I think it speaks to like a bigger thing on what the regular season is now, is that maybe the Pacers were a taste of this last year because they were so good from January 1st on. You can make debates about like what they went through in the East, but still, look, they got through the East. They get to Game 7 with OKC. Is there a shift, at least in like correcting a talent deficiency with a style advantage? Which is just, it feels like it goes against everything that I've ever believed about in this league. But it seems like Miami is more style than talent when you're going to start matching them up against other playoff teams.
Well, I don't think it's a trend to try to change the style because the talent changes, right? Like, I mean, how many times do we go into a season, preseason, training camp, and hear a coaching staff say, we're going to play fast. I'm going to play fast. Like the greatest, a team is not good when the coaching staff says we're going to play fast, because that's always a way to kind of, change things up. I think what Miami did is different. Miami has talent there, maybe not championship level talent, but they've got good talent down there. In the aftermath of the Butler trade, Spoelstra decided this team was not going to be able to play this kind of pick and roll heavy style that made them successful with Butler there. So what he goes out and does is I think the most remarkable coaching job this year, which is to, go get Noah LaRoche, talk to Noah LaRoche, who at that point was at like rock bottom. Remember, he got canned part of the Taylor Jenkins stuff at the end of last season. People were kind of down on him in Memphis. Spoelstra goes out, talks to Noah LaRoche, has him work with him on this new offense. And it's worked out incredibly well. It's maximized the talents of some of the guys on the roster. I mean, look at what Jaime Jaquez Jr. was last year. Like he looked like he took 3 steps back in his second year. Now he's back to being that kind of, top 6th man at least, and maybe a lot better. Top to bottom in Miami, these guys just have embraced the way that they're playing and are really successful at it. So I don't know that it's a new thing that a team will change its style because its personnel has shifted. I just think Miami has done it so much better than anybody else and taken it to an extreme that no other team has gone to.
Yeah, the other things too, like if you look at touches, they're 5th in the league, touches per game, time of possession, they're last, which is a good thing. Dribbles per possession, they're 28th. They're just, I've always, like, maybe it's the early years, and I know you started kind of with the Celtics too. It's just beginning for me, like Doc was just so influential in the way he talked about basketball. Also, he was willing to talk to you about basketball too when, you're, especially me, like being in my 20s, and it wasn't like there was a ton of guys talking to me. But there's just truth to this sport of why would you not push it to at least look? Like, why would you not push to see if you have some sort of advantage or cross match and scrambling and try to pick you up in transition? I've always felt like there are free points out there if you're just willing to push it and look. And, there's just a lot of players that are not comfortable doing that. They want to bring it up. They also want the ball. They also want the stats. I promise I'm not talking specifically about Harden in this matchup here, where they were like, hey, buddy, we're going to give you the rest of the night off running around here. But I think you can at least look for these advantages and not necessarily have to be the fastest team and feel like you've got to get a shot off immediately. I just think teams historically have ignored these opportunities. And then when you throw in Miami, like a made free throw, hey, no problem. Like, we're still going to attack. We're going to be relentless. And I credit Spo entirely. It's like Belichick deciding I'm going to run the air raid and bring in this brand new offensive coordinator because I think this gives us some sort of schematic advantage and we need to look different.
It is the best coaching job done this season. Now, it doesn't guarantee he's going to win Coach of the Year because there's a lot of elements that goes into Coach of the Year. I think player development goes into Coach of the Year, and that's where somebody like JB Bickerstaff, I think, is going to justifiably get a lot of credit. But it's the greatest coaching adjustment that I've seen this year and that I've frankly seen in 10, 15, 20 years, whatever you want to look at it, to make this sharp pivot. When it comes to other teams doing it, like I do think it takes a certain level of gravitas to do it. Like you have to have the full buy-in of everybody in that locker room, because if you get even one guy that doesn't want to play this way, it blows the whole thing up. They don't have that. Everybody seems to be all in on it, from Bam Adebayo on all down to Jaime Jaquez. And I think it also takes a level of job security, right? Like, because like if this goes south, and this very easily could have gone the other direction. Like they could have missed a bunch of shots early. Teams could have adjusted. Their defense could have suffered even more. All of a sudden, the front office is looking at you going, this was your idea. This was how you're going to make us competitive this year. That doesn't happen in Miami. So I think it is somewhat unique to Spoelstra and the Miami Heat, but it's really a remarkable adjustment that they've made.
And I'm glad Spo said it, because I felt the same way after watching that series with Cleveland last year. Like, it was humiliating. It was so bad. And look, Hero's only been back a handful of games. They've missed Bam for a handful. Like, I feel like Bam will fit into all this stuff. There's probably some kind of question of, like, defensively, how does Hero match up? But Hero should be able to play fast and buy into all this stuff and get shots. His shot creation is so spectacular that, he's not this MVP caliber on ball guy that's like, look, I mean, when the Lakers play slow and decide to just hand it over to Luka and not do why would you give them a hard time? Because it's still in that points per possession Luka stuff. It's still going to be your best look, even if it's going to be slower than maybe every coach would want. You mentioned Detroit, because I spent some time on the YouTube specific stuff of this. I like them better, probably because the high end talent of a Cade and a Duren that, I don't think anyone in Miami right now is as good as Cade. I mean, Duren, Bam's like a different conversation altogether. There's probably more I would like just because of Bam's track record there. But Detroit feels like it has more staying power to me, even with the shooting being pretty abysmal, which is kind of shocking how great the clutch record is and the overall record. But there's just more that I can see working in the playoffs. And again, I might be just defaulting to going, all right, if they have two of the best three players in a series, which I think they would have against some of these other teams, then I'm still going to like them.
Yeah. So the positives are, the talent level at the top with Cade, who is a legit top 10 guy. I thought he was a top 10 guy coming into this season. He's, to me, clearly a top 10 guy right now. The steps that Duren has taken to not just become kind of Steven Adams 2.0, but a much better version, a much more reliable version for them. The shooting stuff, though, I mentioned Duncan Robinson earlier. Like, he is their most reliable perimeter shooter, 40+% 3-point shooter, but they are scoring so many points in the paint. Like, they're around 60 points in the paint on average. They had that game against Brooklyn where they scored 80 in the paint. Like they're just beating you down on the inside. And that's great. And it's working for them right now. But in a half-court game in the postseason, do they need one more perimeter shooter? Do they need one more reliable guy that they know is going to knock down shots? They don't really have that right now. They've got decent shooters. I don't think a lot of these guys are terrible, but really Robinson is the one guy they can lean on from the outside. I wonder if that's something they're going to look into over these next couple of months, see if they can get one more guy, because they're just, to me, one floor spacer away from not just being like the consensus team to come out of the Eastern Conference, but a team that I think could compete against whoever comes out of the Western Conference. I think they're that good with some of their top-end talent.
You mentioned Toronto's defense. Look, it's been really good so far. They're a deep team that I love their adjustment. Some of the stuff they've done with Scotty Barnes, where it's not like, hey, Scotty, like figure it all out. Like this is going to kind of feed into the Orlando part of it. But like you just brought it up with Jaime Jaquez, who's not at the level of Scotty Barnes or Paolo Banchero, right? So like we can just get that house cleaning out of the way. The fact that Jaime was so good 2 years ago, him being as bad as he was last year, it still like, well, there's no way he just sucks now and can't play, right? He's a connector. He makes great decisions. Granted, some of the knock on him draft-wise was like, look, he's older. He's not a crazy athlete. He's not going to shoot it that well. And then from the jump, it's like, oh, I guess he's a better shooter now. So to me, it makes more sense that he looks far more like his rookie year than the disastrous second year. And there's stuff with Scotty Barnes where you look at last year, it's like, oh, man. First of all, I don't understand when anybody like gets too on the case of any of these teams to give them the full rookie extension. It's like, he's clearly going to be your franchise guy. Maybe he's not perfect. That's why I applaud what Houston did with Jalen Green, because they're like, we know this guy isn't perfect, so we're not giving you the full boat on this whole thing. But, it's happening to Paolo now too. It's like, man, you're paying that guy a ton of money. It's like, well, no shit, they're paying this guy a ton of money. He's the number one overall pick. At least Orlando was making the playoffs. But now to see Scotty Barnes at this level and reminding us all why we liked him so much, it's like, it's not like he got worse last year. They had a ton of injuries. He was tasked with solving almost every single possession. And now that he has more help and they're more creative in the way that they use him, and the numbers back up all this stuff, I think it's a reminder of why we should never turn the page on somebody like that. And why, I'll be honest, I can't stand, even with this Orlando run, this re-examination of who Paolo is. And it's not just fans. It's not just media. I'm actually shocked how many front office people that I'll talk to that know I love Banchero that are like, hey, like starting to wonder about the guy a little bit. I mean, it's happened a few times. I'm like, you guys are down on Banchero, and I think the efficiency stuff turns some decision makers off on him.
Yeah, start with Toronto.
I threw a lot at you in that one.
Yeah, when I talk to people in Toronto, they're quick to remind me that they weren't really as bad last year as their record indicates. There were a ton of injuries. They made the Ingram trade. Ingram doesn't play for them. Had things broken right, they would have had a better record, and it wouldn't have looked this surprising that they've been this good coming into this year. That being said, and
just real quick on the defensive thing, they were number 2 in defense.
Yeah.
And almost basically a 500 team after the All-Star break. And that's with all the injuries. So go ahead.
Yeah. They were better than what their records seem to suggest. Barnes's numbers are basically the same. The efficiency numbers are they've leaped up. They've gotten back to what they were a couple of years ago when he was an All-Star, and that's had a big impact. But I think a big part of it is like the Ingram impact there is real. Like it's, RJ Barrett has been really good. Quickly's been really good. I love Jamal Sheed coming off the bench. He's been a presence for them on both ends. But having a guy that can just get them a bucket in the half court, a guy that can't, for the life of them, buy a bucket from 3-point range, but can shoot like 50% from inside the 3-point line. That is just such a valuable piece for them to have that they didn't have last year. Like they could do a lot of things last year. They could beat you in transition. They could, muck it up a little bit in the half court. But if they needed someone to get you a shot or get you a bucket, they just didn't have it. Scotty Barnes wasn't that guy. Probably is never going to be that guy. RJ Barrett isn't going to be that guy. Quickly's not going to be that guy on down. Brandon Ingram is that guy. Like he's not Tatum, but he's Tatum-esque in how he can get you a bucket in the half court. Having that, I think, has had a trickle-down effect. Now, the defensive stuff, Like they've got defenders on the bench. Like the bench is a bunch of guys that are dogs that can get after you defensively. My question is going to be when they get deeper into the season and into the playoffs, like how do they mix these guys together? Like you want to play quickly. You want to play Barrett. You want to play, all these guys that are not necessarily plus defenders, but you got to get some of those plus defenders in the game. If they can figure out that balance, Ryan, like then I'm ready to buy in on the Raptors because I do think they have enough offensively to be pretty dangerous in the postseason.
Yeah, Shed and Walter have been really like completely different guys after their rookie year. So the second season numbers for them, it's like rotationally watching them the other night. And yeah, sure, there's always going to be a few quickly possessions where I'm like, what are you doing? But they have the outlet. They have the outlet, for good or bad. It's like, hey, Ingram, solve this for us if they don't like, what Scotty's looking at. But I just love some of the stuff that they're doing with Scotty where it's like, we're not just tasking you with, hey, you're the best player, you have the ball, figure it out. Because then I almost feel like, you just got four players watching and maybe a fifth guy standing in the corner. It's just really hard to survive like that, especially when you're not surrounded by shooting all over the place. So they've been deep. The defense has held up and a good carryover there. So give me your Orlando thing because look, we're just talking here, so it wasn't like the best question ever. But I want to hear your thoughts on Orlando as this Bane thing has been terrific lately. But it's funny, even when Orlando's winning, because I'm with you. I had them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I love how they've held up defensively. I figured like that's their five. Like even when they were struggling and all the guys were healthy, I'm like, this is the five guys they can run out. Like there's no way this team is going to be bad. And now even with success, it just leads, unfortunately, to like a negative underlying storyline of what's it going to look like when Paolo comes back with a high usage.
Yeah, I'm with you that I'm not looking at a Paolo conundrum. Like I think he'll figure it out with this group. I was shocked. We talked about the style of play, the pace of play with Miami a few minutes ago. That's one thing. I was shocked at how Orlando decided to try to become this like faster paced team. Like I thought when they acquired Desmond Bane that they would just plug Bane in as a perimeter scorer, shot creator in the half court, and lean heavily on this grinded out 1990s style defense that can win 95, 91 types of games in the playoffs. Like I thought that was just kind of the way they were going to go. They flipped the script a little bit and decided to play the possession game more and decided to modernize their offense a little bit more. And I think there was an adjustment there. They don't have the natural point guard out there. Jalen Suggs is a good player. I wouldn't call him a natural one. Bane is a playmaker. He's certainly not a natural one. So I think there was a learning curve trying to figure out how to play, not just with Desmond Bane, but how to play in this sort of new system that they were trying to create out there. And I think over the last 8 or 9 games, you've seen them kind of get it a little bit. I don't have the pace numbers over the last 10, but I would argue it's probably come back to earth a little bit. Bane has been much more comfortable, looked much more comfortable anyway with the way in this lineup. But I think when Powell gets back, he'll figure it out too. I still like their ability to grind you down to the nub in the postseason defensively. And with Bane there, I think they've got enough shot creation to beat you in the fourth quarter of games, which they didn't have last year.
Yeah, they also started off the season too. I don't know how many games in it was. I mean, I could probably pull it all up here, but they were like bottom third defensively. I'm like, even if Orlando sucks and is the biggest disappointment in the East, that team's not going to be bad on defense.
But did you connect that to? I connected some of that to the pace they were trying to play. Like they were picking it up a little bit more. They were trying to run a little bit more, play the possession game a little bit more, and that's not something they've been over the last couple of years. They have been I don't know what the pace numbers for the last 2 years, but they're probably bottom 5 in the league. Their offense was terrible overall, but I thought them changing their offensive identity early on was, had a trickle-down effect to everything else.
I also think part of the Paolo thing too is that if you want to say he's a like ball hog, doesn't move the ball or whatever. And I've brought this up before. I've just never talked with you about it. Is that when I watched him in college, that was not who he was. He was a really willing teammate. So, if you want to tell me like Jalen Green has a hard time playing with others, I would say, yeah, even though there was that one little stretch there where I felt like he was figuring it out a couple of years ago. I don't think Paolo did that because that's how he was wired. I think he did it out of necessity because they had all these injuries and maybe he got into some bad habits. And look, I don't like the Paolo dribble, turn around 17-footer. I think he takes some really tough shots. But I don't know that it's because he doesn't want to get other guys involved, because I like his playmaking, especially at that size. Like, I don't think he's Cade necessarily, but it's something that we're seeing with Jalen Johnson. Like, having these enormous guys that initiate your offense, who then can also finish, is a massive advantage because you're going to get these looks. They're going to see the floor a little bit better. If you get anyone one-on-one, they're just going to ride the defender right to the hoop. So I resist any Banchero criticism, and I just think he's too good and he's too smart. And I think this is another thing. We're talking about a guy putting up huge numbers for a team that was actually in the playoffs too. So it wasn't like they were going 20 and 62 and it's like, oh, hey, look, I got my 30 and I'm going to get a max extension and I don't care about the rest of the stuff. So we are aligned on that one. I'm just surprised how many people that I really respect a ton. I don't know. They're not as high on him as I guess you and I are. Let's stay with the front office stuff here. You just did a feature on the Dallas Mavericks. AD's back. Nice win, by the way, in Denver, although Denver continues to lose bodies here. Gordon's been out. Brown's been out. They lost Murray in that game when Dallas came back and won it. But is this a team that's going to blow this up, or are they going to think if we just get things right here, we could actually be kind of a scary team at the bottom of the West?
Well, to hear Mavericks people tell it, they'll tell you two things. One is that they do believe that if they can get all their bodies back, beginning with Kyrie Irving, extending to Derek Lively, PJ Washington steps on a basketball, he's been out. Like, they've got a whole bunch of injuries they're dealing with now. If they can get all those guys back, they're going to go on a run. Like, they believe there's a run in them. And they've pointed to some of those statistics that we've talked about, where they've played, I think it's right now 17 games that are defined as clutch, 5 points in the last 5 minutes. They've only won 6 of those games. And a lot of that has been because at the end of them, they just haven't had a guy that can create shots. Like, Ryan Nembhard had a great game against Denver. He's a two-way guy. D'Angelo Russell has not been the answer. They don't have a point guard that can create offense for them, but they're going to get one back at some point, during this season. And they believe that when they get him back, him being Kyrie, and they get some of these other guys back into the mix, this, fever dream that Nico Harrison had about a defensive-minded team that, could grind out wins, could still come to fruition. The other part of it is that I keep getting told is that they say, look, they don't want to deal Kyrie Irving. Like, they think Cooper Flagg needs to play next to a elite point guard to develop him the right way.
That's not D'Angelo Russell.
It's not D'Angelo Russell. It's not that guy. They look at an AD trade, and like, wherever you trade AD, let's say you find a deal with them, Chicago. I think Atlanta could be an interesting spot for him. What you're going to get back and what you still have is not enough to do this kind of Washington Wizards like free fall. Like, you're just not going to sink like a stone to the bottom of the Western Conference standings, not with Cooper Flagg and a bunch of other competitive guys around them. So they're not sure they see the upside in blowing this thing up, at least not during the course of this season. That being said, they have internally and externally discussed or gauged the market on what an Anthony Davis trade could look like. Because Davis has one fully guaranteed year left in his contract. He's got a player option on the back end of that for like $60-something million. He's not a long-term guy in Dallas. They're going to go into a rebuild at some point. So they have looked at the market for Anthony Davis. And teams that I've talked to out there are, watching how Davis responds over the next few weeks. He doesn't have really any trade value right now until he plays like 10, 15 games coming off this calf injury. But if he does, and if he looks like the Anthony Davis of yesteryear, I think there will be a robust trade market out there for him. I think a lot of teams, especially ones in the Eastern Conference, are looking at Anthony Davis and going, all right, that guy could be a difference maker. Like Chicago, you put Anthony Davis on the Bulls, a team that can't defend, can't score much either these days, but can't defend, that's a big difference maker. Like Atlanta, swap out Davis for Porzingis' contract and some other stuff. Like, what kind of difference does that make with Atlanta? Like, I think there are a lot of teams in the East that would look at Davis as a needle mover there. So, look, I think, and I wrote this week, I think Dallas this month is going to be pretty revealing for them. Like, if they can find a way to get 500 within sight, scratch their way towards a close to 500 record, and they see a Kyrie return happening sometime in January before the All-Star break, that could motivate them to keep this team together and see what they can do for the rest of the season. But if it goes the other way and they're still way below 500, but Davis is still out there playing, that's when I think the Davis talk is really going to ramp up.
Okay. I think you're going to agree with me on this, though. But, the Anthony Davis, hey, trade value. Well, it's low right now. It's like, let's see him play for a month. It's like, so what? Like, he plays for a month and now he's like a different guy. Like, he's exactly who he's been for years, and he's an incredibly talented guy who still somehow doesn't want to play center. He was playing center based on necessity now because of some of the injuries, which again makes all the sense in the world. He's just not a power forward anymore. So I don't know if you have to pretend. The Lakers used to kind of massage that a little bit and pretend. Be like, yeah, sure, you're a power forward, buddy. Whatever you say. And then you'd look at some of the closing groups and you just go, well, this doesn't make any sense.
He clings to that. He clings to that Dwight Howard championship season like it's proof for life that he should be a power forward. Like they win a championship with Dwight. It's like, hey, and they had another big there. I'm blanking right now, but I played power forward during that bubble run. JaVale, yeah, I played power forward there, and that's proof that I should be a power forward forever.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and look at it real quick, just because I know this is annoying, but I think I remember looking at Dwight's minutes. I have it. So Dwight played 19 minutes a game against Portland. He played in 2 games against Houston for a total of 16 actual minutes. 20 minutes a game against Denver. The finals he played. That's why he played 12 minutes a game in the finals against the Miami Heat. Now, granted, the Heat didn't have any size to deal with whatsoever. But whenever he says that, and then it's brought up by other people because he has said it so many times, the numbers are pretty fluky on that. It's like you had this rotational, we'll throw Dwight out there for a few minutes. Anyway, I just don't understand why I keep seeing so many quotes acting like Anthony Davis being healthy for a month completely changes his trade value when he's still, as much as I could sell you on the positives of all of this, there's a financial part of it. Usually I would make my player option joke and be like, yeah, $63 million in 2 years. He's probably going to pick that up. Maybe he opts out of it to just extend longer to a lesser number, whether it's with Dallas again or ends up being somewhere else. The mistake that I probably make too often, though, is a guy like Davis, or I want to get to Ja here at some point, or anybody that feels like damaged goods. And I'm like, well, if I was a GM, I would never want to get in the business of this player or this player. And then you start listing all these players and you go, yeah, that's not really how it works though, man. You could just write off a bunch of dudes. But if you're Chicago, even though they're so inactive that we could sit there and pretend maybe they'd feel stale enough that they would want to do something and throw a couple picks in there, bring them home and go, hey, look at this. They're just not a very proactive team. This is where, some teams feel like, hey, we're close. And if for a playoff series we have him and he's healthy, it's kind of like what the Clippers have been hanging on to for all these years with the Kawhi in theory. I think Kawhi, despite how bad everything's looked I think he's kind of looked awesome lately. Awesome. So, you see that and you're like, what if I can get that for just 6 weeks? So I shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that every single GM shouldn't be in the market for a player that's damaged goods, but specific to Davis somehow being this penny stock that's all over the place, I think it's pretty established what kind of business you're getting into if you bring him in.
Yeah, it is, which is why I isolated just to the Eastern Conference. And this goes back to the Bane trade, right? If Orlando was in the West, zero chance they do the Desmond Bane trade. No chance. Because giving up that many assets for that player isn't going to get you over the top in a conference with Oklahoma City, Denver, the Lakers, everybody else that's really damn good. But because they're in the East, they were, and look, contracts were coming up. Like they had to do something. Like they decided to roll the dice and give up a lot of assets for Desmond Bane. It's to me, it's the same sort of mindset with Anthony Davis. Yes, he is a flawed player in the sense that you never know when something on his muscular structure is going to pull. It's going to cost him 6 weeks. But if you can somehow bubble wrap him and get him to the playoffs and get him healthy enough to be a 30-minute per game, 35-minute per game type of guy, you can beat everybody in the Eastern Conference. Like, again, I keep going back to Atlanta because I'm really talking myself into this, like with the Atlanta Hawks. It's fascinating to me, like if they could find their way to get their hands on an Anthony Davis. Like AD in a lineup with Jalen Johnson, with Dyson Daniels, with all the guys they've got out there at Atlanta. That to me is the favorite to win the East right away. Then figure out the Trae Young stuff a little bit later on. The Bulls, I don't think he makes them the favorite, but he cleans up a defense that right now is ranked in the bottom third and has forever been bad.
It's a layup line against the Bulls. Vooch is a nice player, nice, but it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. So he cleans that up and puts them right there in the mix. I just think Eastern Conference teams have to look at things a lot differently than Western Conference teams because a player like Davis is enough to get you over the top. You still might get killed in the finals by Oklahoma City or Denver, whoever comes out of the West. But if you have a shot to get to the finals and it's a high risk type of shot, I think you got to take it.
Where are you with Atlanta and Trae? Speaking of guys, like I go, would you want to get into business? Look, the numbers, I did them the other night. I'm looking for them here. Actually, I have them. I just found them.
Can I talk you into this Anthony Davis to Atlanta stuff? Can I get you onto this train? Because
what am I giving up? Because I'm not giving up more than, I'm not giving you the Pelicans pick. That's for sure.
No. But they've got some draft capital they can deal. And look, that Porzingis contract doesn't get you all the way there, but it gets you a big chunk of the way there.
Okay, I'm giving up Porzingis and a lesser pick, done. Yeah, I mean, of course, but that's not going to. The price with Dallas here is completely impacted by the Luka transaction too. Like there has to be this isn't ever going to be a dump. It's not going to be a dump, even if they're afraid of what the financial commitment is for a guy that's likely going to keep getting hurt all the time. So, I personally thought the Porzingis thing to Atlanta was a little overrated. Like the way people talked it up in the offseason, because he's a guy you can't really depend on. The idea of Porzingis is far more valuable than the reality. And
I don't think he fit next to those guys the way he fit. I never thought he fit the way next to Trae the way he did Tatum and Brown and that group.
But if we've learned anything about this, it's like if you can find somebody that at one time felt like a stretch five who can then protect the rim.
Yeah.
Like the way teams will talk themselves in it, be like, are you sure that's what that guy is? And then I'm not even being critical about it. It's just, but if, and that's really what the Porzingis thing was, is if we can just keep him healthy and we have this stretch five option that's pulling their center away, it opens up all these different things for us. But, the Trae sample, there were 2 and 3 with him, probably 1 and 3 with him because he got hurt 7 minutes into that Nets game that they ended up winning, but they were probably going to beat the Nets anyway. I'm not going to put a lot of stock into him not shooting it well in a handful of games here. That would be completely unfair. But with Trae defensively, historically, versus where they're at, the last time I looked at the numbers, without him, they're 6th on defense. I don't know if there's a trade there, but if they think internally, hey, we're not going to give him the extension that he thinks he's going to get as the face of this franchise, it would be pretty fascinating to see them go, we actually just kind of need to figure this all out in the fly. Because I love that team right now.
Yeah.
I love watching the Hawks.
They are menacing defensively with that group. The length, the athleticism, being able to play Alexander Walker alongside Daniels, with some of the guys they have backstopping them. I mean, they can be as tough as any team in the league defensively and offensively. Jalen Johnson, I think we both agree, was on his way to being a star last year before the injuries. Like he was great. And this Trae injury has unlocked, or at least allowed him to showcase, a lot of the playmaking skills that people in Atlanta thought that he had. Like he has taken over a lot of those playmaking responsibilities and been really, really good at it. I don't know what the trade is for Trey right now. But if and when he comes back, I think his role has to be different. Offensively, he can't just be the hub anymore. Like, you've got to cede some of those playmaking responsibilities, keep the ball in the hands of Jalen Johnson. And there's going to be stretches where this team might be better with Trae Young off the floor because they're so good defensively. Like, I think they're going to have to, realign once he's back in the lineup to be a different team than the one that they have been all throughout Trae's career and what they were before he went out with this injury.
Yeah, I was always impressed that, like, even with the Trae's dominance, like his numbers being so dominant with the ball, that they still found a way. Like, whenever I would look at touches, like Luka's always at the top. SGA, Giannis is always off the charts, right? But then Trae would have a huge number, but then they still found a way in that offense to get Jalen Johnson a ton of touches while they were still playing together. So, but I just would want to see Jalen being able to initiate some of the stuff because he had a play the other night. They were trying to come back against Detroit, and you could see that he was frustrated, but it was just him kind of understanding, like, I'm the best player on this team. I need to get us this bucket. Like, he seems to have the makeup too of somebody tasked with all of this. But even to the Trae Young fan and anyone that still believes in this long term, I'd concede that in a playoff series, like, Trae's not going to be afraid of any situation, and that he's going to save you offensively on some possessions that get really stuck because of his shot making. Even though, there's probably a conversation that he's generally been pretty average from three now, like for 3 seasons combined there, if you look at some of those numbers.
Let me ask you this. If you were going to swap Trae for Kawhi, who would say no to that?
Oh my God. James Harden.
I think for the Clippers, it's more about, like, when you trade Kawhi, you're embracing the suck, right? Like, you're in on, retooling, rebooting this team. Maybe Harden's the next guy to go after that. The Trae stuff would theoretically, you change things up, but I think his contract is less than Kawhi. So it would be more about that. If you're the Hawks, I think would jump at that because you get another, versatile defender who could also get you a bucket in the playoffs.
Let's talk a little bit about Giannis. Do you put anything into this social media cleansing? Was that real?
I guess it's real. Strange time to do it.
After the Wizards game, I think it was the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I guess, strange time, for Bucks fans. But yeah, losing to the Wizards was
You're
bad.
right. You're right. I'm just being a smartass.
I don't know. It's clearly frustrating. If you just listen to his interviews after games, like, the way this team is playing is frustrating. We talked about possessions with Miami. The Bucks are getting killed in the possession game. Like, every Doc Rivers post-game press conference, he's grabbing the stat sheet. He's pointing to the number of shots the other teams are getting, the number of free throw attempts the other teams are getting. He's not even complaining about the whistle. He's just saying we're not getting enough shots up. We're spotting teams. I think they spotted the Wizards 18 shots in that game, which is a huge number. And you're not going to beat even a team like Washington spotting that many shots. They don't offensive rebound. They're not very good defensively on rebounding. They're just a very mediocre team. They're a weirdly constructed roster with, like, Taurean Prince out. They've got, like, a bunch of small guys and a bunch of big guys and not a lot really in between. And, as great as Giannis has been, and he's like the ultimate 2-point scoring machine. Like, he leads the league in field goals made and 2-point field goals made. He just can't carry them. And I think that realization, if it didn't dawn on him in training camp and early in the season, it's probably dawning on him right now that this team at sub 500 is not going to be saved by a couple of guys coming back from injury. It's just, this is what this team is right now in the Eastern Conference.
Not that this was new, watching them against the Wizards, but, seeing him have the ball 35 feet away from the hoop, and it's like, figure it out, man. And he does. Like, he still can. He's incredible. He turns 31 this week. I don't know how anyone could not be exhausted from even him, like a superhuman being, not just have, like, we're going to do this for 60 more games. Like it's just, so I have no idea. I mean, I watched that game, enough of it, and then it wasn't necessarily like anything frustrating because he's so competitive and he's so intense throughout the entire game. But like even these plays that worked, it's like back to the basket, 35 feet. They don't want to set a screen because they don't want to bring a ton of traffic over to them. And so then it's like, all right, you're just going to have to find a way to dribble and step through the entire 5 guys on the Wizards because everyone's going to collapse on you. And then he scores, maybe he gets the and one. And then as he's about to take a spot at the free throw line, like you're just looking at him going, there's no way. Even he can't keep doing this all year long. And I said it before the season started because when you were at the Combine, there was rumblings. It was like a really topical thing at the Combine of like the future of Giannis and all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if this many people are talking about it, and there were a lot of different versions of it too. So it wasn't that thing, that rule I'll have where it's like, well, if everybody's talking about this, but it's always the same thing all the time, is everybody just kind of repeating the same thing that they heard at the beginning of this? But it just felt like whether it was, hey, the agent's going to be in charge of this, or if it were to happen, Giannis is going to have more input. I understand why this ownership group and Horst would not ever want to be like, hey, we were proactive about this. But if you let this get to the point where it's ugly, if you have any inclination that he's going to make it ugly at some point, then that pricing, like I still think he's somebody at this point you would go, hey, we can do a normal old school trade where we actually like some of the players coming back here, as opposed to now we're screwed and we have no outs and we just have to give in to the guy.
Which I don't think that can happen in season. Do you? Like, I don't. I know we're only in December, but
with the structure of it.
Well, any deal, any Giannis deal, I don't think that happens in season. I don't look.
No, the betting. You're right. I mean, with their approach to it, I don't think they even want to do it. So yeah, I would agree
don't,
with
but like,
you. It doesn't.
And like in the off season, this can reach kind of a natural breaking point because that's when he's entering the final year of his deal. He doesn't have to issue a trade demand. He can just say, look, I'm not going to sign an extension, which has the exact same, weight as a trade demand. Then it doesn't get ugly. I've always believed that was how this was going to play out. And that would certainly free the Hawks or the Bucks to be real patient with it and to see what the landscape looks like, to play teams off each other, to do all the things that the Mavericks didn't do, last year. So I think that's the most likely scenario with all this. Like Giannis with the social media stuff, that certainly ratchets up the atmosphere a little bit and will lead to some questions over the next few days as the Bucks get back. But I can't fathom this team doing a Giannis deal mid-season, even if this team continues to look like, a bottom half of the Eastern Conference bracket team, even if they look like a play-in type of team. I just think there's too much at stake for the franchise to try to push through a deal before the deadline. You've got to play the Knicks against the Rockets, against somebody else, and see what the max offer you can get. And there just isn't the time to do that during a regular season schedule.
The benefit they have, though, is because he is so special. You think like, this is not going to have the structure of some of these other deals where it's like, hey, we'll trade you filler for a bunch of picks. 2 are probably going to suck, and then we'll see what happens. I think real contending teams that are disappointed this summer would go, hey, we can trade maybe our number 2 or number 3 guy in this kind of deal. And, that's the thing that I'd be holding on to.
You can. I mean, look, San Antonio is always going to be in the mix. And if you could extract Stephen Castle and a whole bunch of draft capital from them, that's something you can hang your hat on. I know that the Rockets have been, when the Rockets did that Jalen Green deal, which they with the Durant deal, I couldn't call it the Jalen Green deal, it's the Durant deal. But when they did the Durant deal, like they could have done that deal many times the season before if they had raised their offer. But like, to Rafael Stone's credit, like they were pretty disciplined on what they were going to offer. And that was because they wanted to have the assets to be able to do something like a Giannis deal or to be in the mix for another top tier player if the right opportunity came along. So I don't know does like Alperen Sengun interest the Milwaukee Bucks in draft capital in a Giannis deal? But the point is, like, there's just a lot of teams out there that can do what you're talking about, to give you a Castle, to give you a Sengun. I don't know what the Knicks are looking at as the Towns, I guess, but like there's teams that can do those types of deals and give you real stuff. It's just, I just look at it as being so difficult to do in the time frame of a trade deadline. Right. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, you're right. And they'll probably like kind of hold out hope of like, hey, we shot it a little bit better and whatever. I'm lying to myself right now because it just was funny. Like,
and it's
yeah. Kuzma, we got a new system here with Kuzma. So I like Şengün so much. I just don't know timeline wise, because then if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, you got old overnight and then getting away from, Şengün, picking him over Jalen Green. The Reed Shepherd stuff has been a lot better with the opportunities. Amen is untouchable. So yeah, in some of these trades, it's kind of funny because you'll see like fan bases. Like I'll see stuff with the Spurs and it's like, hey, I like Keldon Johnson too. Like I probably like Keldon Johnson far longer and more than I should have for a bunch of different years, but I still kind of like him. I think you're going to have to give up one of the other guards if you're wanting to do any kind of Giannis deal.
It's Castle. It's not going to be Dylan Harper. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. You can't keep Harper, Castle. I don't know if they would want Fox anyway. Is there anything worth asking you about Ja? Because now he's kind of in. He's super supportive. Look, to his credit, I'm looking for anything that feels like a positive. And the thing that sucks for Memphis, too, being hitched to the Ja deal, and this is like this, and then I have one other Tatum question and we'll be done. Mm-hmm. But Memphis has done, I think, over the years, such a really good job in just having an eye for talent and guys that fit in. And whether it's Wells, whether it's Vince Williams, Scottie Pippen Jr., hasn't really even played. This Edey thing has been terrific this season, especially if you're playing against Sacramento. They don't have any centers. The structure around it is something they deserve a lot of credit for, but none of it matters. But look, at least the Ja part of it, whether it's real or fake, I don't even give a shit if it's fake. He is very engaged in a positive way for a guy that's had kind of a disastrous start to this season. Yeah,
there's been positives coming out over the last couple of weeks about Ja. I mean, can they reincorporate him? Yeah, I think they can. Every Grizzlies game, though, that I watch, I become less convinced that this coach knows what he's doing. Really, like I think he's very bad. And I think his system, this platoon system, where, like, use for example, the Spurs game. I watched some of that last night. That was a coaching loss. Like the Spurs didn't have it. I didn't think the Spurs looked very good last night. But when at times when it looked like that the Grizzlies could pull away, they subbed guys out. Like they were just they kept pulling guys out of this game that were having a positive impact on the game because they want to do this whole platoon thing and keep guys limited to a certain amount of minutes. They're running like these Vince Williams pick and rolls. Like, I don't know what that's all about. Like they're playing, like, I think Olivia Prosper got like 2 stretches, like in both halves in this game. Like I don't understand the substitution patterns that Russillo is running out there at Memphis. And I think when Ja comes back, this is still going to be a problem for him. Like, unless they're going to change the system to play Ja the kind of minutes that he wants to and not pull him out of games the way they're pulling everybody else out of games, the way they're pulling Ja out of games, we're going to be right back where we started with this butting heads. I don't like this coaching style, Ryan. I don't like it at all. I don't think it's going to be successful. I don't think this platoon stuff works. I think when you got good players, you play good players as long as you can. With some caveats. I think this is all, like, as good as the vibes might be right now with the Grizzlies playing better against some bad teams. I think when he comes back, if it's the same structure and the same system, it's going to be the same result, man. It's not going to change one bit for Ja Morant in this team.
Even if I love the idea of, hey, I want to try something different. I want to see like the sustainability, the freshness. Like, are we getting more impactful minutes and lesser minutes? No player is going to like this. No star player is going to like this because you're going to go, wait, so I'm playing like less minutes and I have less shots.
Like this. I think Zach Edey wants to leave games when he's playing like Wilt Chamberlain. Like, I mean, no, it's...
There was one sub out where it was like 4 for 4 guys late in last night's game where I felt like, hey, didn't they just have like 4 pretty good possessions? And
yes.
Right. So I watched the fourth quarter last night, and I was like, God, this is. And look, no player's going to go, hey, my scoring and assists were down, but I was fresher. Like, these guys don't want to do it. They're like, where's my 25 a game? Like, the Jaren Jackson stuff is awful, and I love them. So, yeah, it's going to be a problem all over again. All right, two quick things. Tatum, do you think he's coming back this year?
I don't know. I mean, when I talk to people in Boston, like the phrase of some sort of like, we're going to do the right thing with Jayson Tatum. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, they don't get any more than that. Look, he's targeting it. People around him tell me he's pushing for it. He wants to come back this year. And I thought that, look, the Celtics are a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Their offense is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Defensively, they're not great, but for a team that plays Neemias Queta and nobody else on that back line and doesn't have anybody else, being middle of the pack is pretty good.
So Queta's unbelievable, by the way.
Queta's great, and he's the only guy. He's the only guy that they have. Like, they're playing like Josh Minott these minutes as kind of a backup center for spurts. Sam Hauser's playing power forward out there. Brown's playing above. Like, Jordan Walsh is playing center. Jordan Walsh is defending Karl Towns last night, and they're still finding ways to play enough defense to win some of these games. I'm not ruling it out. I'm not ruling it out. I'm shocked that I'm even feeling this way, because when I sat down with Tatum back in the preseason, he was making those media rounds because of whatever drug thing he was peddling at that point. I just chalked it up to a guy that really wants to play, and maybe he feels better than he thought he was going to. But ultimately, they're going to get to midseason. He's not going to be medically cleared. They'll say, you know what? We're under 500. Forget about it. We got our first round draft pick. Let's focus on 2026-27. But the fact that they're this competitive, and the fact that every time I watch a new Tatum video, he's doing something better. Like the most recent one that was out there, like, he looks like he's doing everything he would do in a game. Like, and you talk to people in his camp, like, it's not just, optical illusions out there or selective editing. Like, he is looking like that in workouts, in scrimmages, or in just the whatever he's able to do out there with the 3-on-3s and whatnot. You can't rule it out at this point. And I'll tell you, like, they're like a Tatum return and one backup big man from me thinking that team can win the East. Really, like, everybody has leveled up on that team. Like, Brown leveled up. You kind of knew that was coming. Pritchard leveled up. He didn't play well against the Knicks, but like, he leveled up against the Cavaliers big time in that game. So Derek White, Derek White. They've got the horses there. They've got the pieces that if Tatum comes back and they can find like a Daniel Gafford type, like somebody like that, to give them something to backstop that front line, they can beat any of these teams in the Eastern Conference with that group.
I almost didn't show up to work today with this Chris Paul news overnight.
I thought we were going to lead with that, so very sad for you. I get it. Yes.
I just didn't want to start with it and then disrupt my emotions the rest of the way. Look, I wouldn't say it looked awesome this year, but
you wouldn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't great.
Can I just say one thing? Does this put into, like, there's a lot going on with this story. Does this put into context at all his decision to abruptly announce his retirement out of nowhere, like 15 games or whatever it was into the season?
Well, I think it's okay for me to say it now, but I knew he was going to retire this summer.
Well, everybody did. Like, I mean, he was.
No,
yeah, I mean, everybody assumed. I guess I didn't know, but assumed.
All right. Well, I didn't hear from him. Like, we can joke around about how much I like him and everything, and he came to the show. It's not like we're fucking texting all the time. Okay, so it's not that I heard it from him. All right, so maybe you're talking not necessarily the secret of it, but that, hey, I'm announcing this is going to happen. I understand it from a basketball standpoint, but if you get into some of their roster stuff and that they were at 14 and then you can only be below that, for 2 weeks? So then what exactly is the point? And I've seen it kind of play out today. It's like, why wouldn't you want to just celebrate like one of the two best players in the entire history of the franchise and have him be a part of this thing at the very end? I don't I don't know. As of this morning, I mean, I started my day with it. I'm lucky I'm even here. I don't know. I'm sure we're all going to find out some different versions of this whole thing. I would say, like, well, here we go again. I can't help myself.
I can't.
When Harden bitched about the young guys, I was like, honestly, I feel like the older guys or the younger guys are out there fighting for their NBA lives. And you have an issue with these guys like playing with all of this effort and everything. So I don't have any idea as of this taping, because it was like literally, I think we've all found out 90 minutes ago. So I don't know what the story is yet.
I just the announcement was strange, and it coming like right after the Clippers had basically decided he wasn't going to be in the rotation, or like he was not going to play as big a role. Sending a guy home at like 3:00 in the morning is wild on so many levels. But it made me wonder, like, when he announced that he was retiring, did he see something like this coming? Like, did he see like,
yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, did he see like the Clippers being like, you know what? It's not really working out. Maybe we're just going to send you home, ultimately waive you, cut you. And maybe he didn't want that. And I'm this is all just speculation, because I'm with you. This is all very new. And I woke up to a bunch of texts about the post, and then conversations with different Clippers people. And here we are. But it put into context to me, like, it made me wonder, like, did he see this type of Clipper move coming and move to maybe stave it off by announcing that he was going to retire? And like, you don't send the guy that's going to retire home. Like, does that trigger anything in you there? Because that's what I'm not the only one that thought this. I got this text for a few people, during the last 5 or 6 hours that the story's been out there. Just strange. It was a strange time to announce that it was going to be the end for him. I know he was going back to Charlotte and all that stuff, but I didn't really buy into that. And now it made me wonder, like, did he sense any of this was coming? That the Clippers thing was not going to work out in some way.
Apparently, Lou Williams said he heard from people in the Clippers organization. This is the story that came out while we were taping, that Chris Paul was very critical of the players, coaches, and front office, and the front office had enough of his criticism.
So
I call that leadership. That, by the way,
that is, I can't. There's so much the story. Like, it's gonna all tumble out there. But what Lou Williams says there kind of tracks with what I've been hearing out there as the reasons for why this was happening, or this happened at this point. Because otherwise, like, look, if he's being a good guy and a good soldier, like, who cares if he's on the bench? Like, you can, like, he played a little bit that Miami game, made some shots in the third quarter when the game was like a 40-point game. But
hey, look, I thought he was getting better. But that might just be my...
That's just you. That's just just when your team is rock bottom defensively, you're not solving the problem by more Chris Paul minutes. It's like, I'd heard some of that. It's like what Lou Williams, you're telling me he's mentioning, I've heard some of that. Because again, like, if he was just like the mentor, the leader, like, you're not really hearing that about Brook Lopez, who's kind of in and out of the lineup, right now. So there's going to be a lot, I think, that comes out in the next 2 or 3 days about why this went down and why the Clippers felt it had to happen when it did.
Check out Chris Mannix's work. He's got a great piece up on kind of the Dallas pivot, or the two options, I guess I should say, on SI.com.
Probably something on Chris Paul later today. I'm guessing. I'm guessing this is a story that's going to be evolving. I'm sorry. This might not be a great be a fan of Chris Paul week. I don't.
That's okay. We'll bounce back. Yeah. Bounce back. He's been on the Knicks.
That's what, like, I asked, not to delay too long, but I asked, so the Knicks did have interest in him last year, obviously. They talked to him. Leon Rose, obviously, the connection.
He's a big city guy.
I think what the Knicks' problem is, like, you'd have to probably trade for him. And I'm looking at this actually came up with a couple of people I was
there's something about the apron, which again, I'm sorry that I just stopped trying to study all this stuff, but I was reading something this morning where it's like, if they keep him on the roster longer than the prorated version that's waived,
I'm not even talking about like
so-
the Clippers have their own financial, and like you can't trade him until December 15th anyway. So you got like 2 weeks before you could actually trade him. But like if you're the Knicks, if you're going to do a deal, you're talking probably Jordan Clarkson or Landry Shamet. I don't think they want to do that. Like I wouldn't they don't want to deal either one of those guys. As much as I think if he was just out there, that's definitely in play if Chris Paul wants to sign somewhere else. But as far as a trade goes, I don't think they're looking to part with the guys they have to part with to get him.
Yeah, instant accountability if you sign him. That's how I see it. So,
wow.
Hey, thanks, man. And I know you got a busy week ahead, so good luck with everything, all right?
Appreciate it, man.
It's official. The Big Shack is out now. I'll run through the specs for you one more time. 2 Angus beef patties, 3 buns, new secret sauce. It's stacked, balanced, and built the right way. You get everything you expect from Shake Shack. Fresh ingredients, that toasted potato bun, and sauce that pulls the whole thing together for $9.99. It's kind of wild how much burger you're getting, especially one that doesn't taste like typical fast food. It's big, it's fresh, and it's legit one of their best burgers yet. I love talking about evolution. And there's a lot of times when I think about our growth as a species, there's some stuff that I get really frustrated with. Like, how come we're so good at this and so bad at this? I was having a Big Shack the other day and I thought, I think we solved burgers though. I think this is something we always deserved. And maybe we were even ahead of schedule for Shake Shack to create something like this for only $9.99. Yeah. That was the thought that I had the other day biting into one. If you've been waiting to see what all the hype's about, today's the day. Go to Shake Shack and order the Big Shack. Sounds familiar? Made different. It is one of the best stories in college football, really, the last couple of years. Clark Lea, the head coach of Vanderbilt, joins us now. And honestly, the timing couldn't be better with the news in the recruiting world as well, which we'll get to. But let's just start with what the resume says. This Vandy job, it scares other coaches off. I know your connection to it is a lot deeper than most. But from 2-10 to 10-2 in 5 seasons, how did you do this?
Well, we need about 6 hours to kind of go through all of it. I will tell you, it's been heavy lift and a slugfest. But this is about a belief in a place. I went here. It's more just the bones of it. Being in Nashville, being in the SEC, being a top 20 academic institution. There's a lot to like about that starting point. I know a little bit more about the history and the lack of investment here and the lack of care here. And so the chance to meet with our leadership going through the interview process, Chancellor Dearmeyer and Candidacy Lee, and hear their vision for what this could be, matching up to my vision. You get to a point in life where it's more professional, less personal. So the fact that this small alma mater actually has less to do with why I'm here than my desire to win and knowing that, you can't be too picky when it comes to get an opportunity to be a head coach. This has been a dream for me since I got into coaching. So the starting point 5 years ago, it was bleak. We had a lot that we had to undo here before we could start building up. It was like tearing everything down to the studs. And we were kind of right before the trend of, like turning the roster over in totality right when you get the job. So I really wanted to be good for everyone that was here. I really wanted to provide an experience for these guys that allowed them to engage with a program that was healthy and that they were inspired to be a part of. And it took me some time to realize that some of those people just weren't meant for the mission. And as year one gave way to year two, we made improvement. And as year two gave way to year three, we had some setbacks. And the third year there was a big pivot for me, a big pivot for our department where we said, we're going to have to embrace this portal. We're going to have to embrace and set up a system for NIL. We did that. And so last year we were able to break through and get to postseason. This year, obviously, we've had a remarkable run, but all of it has been planned with intention. And, we've had a vision for this for a long time. To see it come to fruition is great. And now it's going to be about sustaining it.
I imagine all the years and all these great coaches you've been associated with as an assistant, and leading to this point of going, okay, I'm sure like a lot of guys in your profession, you're thinking of what is it going to be like when I'm a head coach? What am I looking for? Some guys can wait a little too long for the perfect opportunity. Then you start thinking, okay, am I being a little too picky about this whole thing, but what was some of the advice that you got from people about the decision to take over a program that has been a challenge in the toughest conference in America?
Well, there were more people that told me not to do it than there were that celebrated me doing it. So, if that tells you anything, I think, just this place has never known how to take care of itself, and it's especially this program. I think it's been one that now winning football in the SEC is really challenging. So you have to be really motivated to get behind it. But I think in some ways, that actually is what creates the opportunity. And I needed to know there was alignment in vision. I needed to know that, again, it was important to our chancellor and our athletics director that this program was going to be successful. And there was that. There was also patience. Like, Candace had a real understanding of where this thing was, even more than I did. I was very naive coming in thinking I was one or two good speeches away from getting it turned. She was able to see around the corner for me and help me navigate what was a couple of really lean years there in the first three. One thing that happened here is our best players ended up transferring to conference opponents. So we lost a tackle to Alabama. We lost a running back to Kentucky in the first 2 years on the job. And as it turns out, that's not a formula to build something that's going to be successful. That running back was Ray Davis, who's an NFL player now, who's a great dude, great player. He's 1,000-yard rusher for us in 2022. So all that to say, Candace in 23, when we had the setback, she came down and never was judgmental, never put pressure on me, never said, you better fix this or else. I think she was so connected to the spirit of what we were building, to the foundation of culture that we had established, the environment. She believed in it and just wanted to be a support. And, in this era in college football, to have that level of leadership, that level of toughness is unheard of. And I'm just grateful for that. But, a lot of people were in the process of going through interviewing and then accepting the job. A lot of people were trying to help me by seeing the cracks in the cup here. I don't blame them for that. And in fact, if anything, I think my experience in those first few years validated their concern. This for me has just there's been an unrelenting belief in what's possible, the opportunity of the fact that we have good bones here that hasn't been successful. I'm just naive enough to think that I can get it done. I learned really quickly that I can, but I can't do it on my own. So I've surrounded myself with really good people that kind of formed the engine that have helped this program reach this point.
How much has Diego Pavia exceeded your expectations about what he would bring to this program and do at the quarterback position?
Well, I don't know that I ever put limitations on what he could do. I watched him when he was at New Mexico State. I was kind of enthralled by his ability, his creativity, his playmaking. When I got to know him personally, I understood more about why he was so special, what made him tick, the chip on the shoulder, the humility and process, the quiet connections he builds. You kind of recognize the threads there, the strands that make him so dynamic. But what he's done since coming here is worked hard and developed. And anytime you have someone developing to the level he has, obviously you have to give him credit for that. That's about him putting the work in. But I think you also have to credit Tim Beck and Garrett Altman, who have worked really hard coaching him. I think Robert Steiner is a part of that team where, he's helped him in the weight room develop physically so that he can play his style of football and be durable in the SEC. And it's been his development that's allowed him to kind of exceed maybe what were external expectations. But for me, I don't ever tend to put limitations on people just because I don't want limitations put on me. And the fact that Diego is a Heisman, front runner and in our minds should win the award. It's not shocking just because once you get to know him, you understand that there is an incredible belief in himself, a confidence, and he doesn't mind telling you what his goals and aspirations are. Too many people whisper their beliefs, but he'll make statements and he'll back them up with play. That's what he does. And he's been instrumental to our success too. Now, I think the story of Vanderbilt goes way beyond one player, but man, is that a compelling part of the makeup of our team.
What impresses me the most, and it's him, right? That kind of drives this engine. But looking back to the Bama win last year, they come in the number one team in the country. It's like, oh yeah, that Pavia guy. He's fun. And then I see a Bama defense as confused as I can ever remember seeing them. And a little bit of the eye candy. Some of this stuff that you do at the mesh point of like, okay, is everybody in tandem? And then you watch it happen over and over again. And it's like, hey, this is a mental test for the opponent here to try to stay disciplined the entire time. And then you wonder, like, will anyone figure out what they're doing? And they may know what the concepts are, but like even this Tennessee game, it's just like, here we go again. Everybody thinks they may be able to close on him, and then they can't. And then he's gone again. And then just when you think you have figured him out, then he's going to hit you with a throw. I'm just so impressed with the combination of this and the sustainability. And we're talking about your offense now, depending on which efficiency ranking you want to look at. I mean, if power 4 yards per play, you are number one and you've kept this thing going. How have you been able to get this kind of buy-in? Well, granted the results help, but the buy-in to this thing that just feels so crisp and confusing for defenses most weeks.
So, this was kind of my evolution in the role was about seeing the fact that in 23, our systems weren't actually supporting the vision for success. And I always knew we needed to be able to control the game offensively. I think point limitation is a huge part of the strategy here, especially as we're getting the program off the ground. And so point limitations about weaponizing the clock, and it's about keeping the opposing offense off the field. So to control the game on offense, it's about time of possession, conversion down success, and finishing drives with touchdowns. Well, that's what we do. And when I kind of went to the analytics to find candidates who had proven track record doing these things, Tim Beck wasn't on the list just because he didn't have the sample size. But we ran his 2 years at New Mexico State through the metrics we had set, and he performed really well. And so I saw it in that process. I saw the creativity. It's not gimmicky. There's a real, personnel grouping challenge, formational challenge, a real skill for designing plays that fit the strengths of the players that need the ball. To win at New Mexico State is about finding the matchups and again, being creative in the way you support your playmakers on the field. Well, that is true of Vanderbilt too. And so our starting point a year ago was, we needed to be an outlier on the schedule. We needed to be the team that was the hardest to prepare for. And even from 24 to 25, we've evolved as we've strengthened. So a year ago, it felt a little bit like, we had to use the window dressing. We had to, be super creative in presentation to try to create the space. I think we were 125th in the country last year in yards before contact in the run game. The last I checked, I'm like probably a month. This is probably not true anymore, but just gives you perspective. The last I checked was probably about a month ago. We were number one in the country in that statistic. So now this isn't just about, being difficult in presentation. It's about being a physical football team, being able to move people at the point of attack, being able to create space in the pocket, so that what you see now is that we have kind of like multiple abilities to attack a defense. Part of that is methodical. Part of that is condensed formations and motions and option elements. But part of it is weaponizing tempo and spreading the field out and finding ways to design our playmakers open on the perimeter. And Diego's done a great job playing point guard for that offense. So I give Tim Beck a ton of credit. I think he's a authentic and genuine person. But he is a really creative play designer and a really skilled play caller. And that has made a huge difference. When you start talking about being number one, in the country in efficiency ratings, that you have to, it's got to be the total package, that you have the players to do it, but also you have the design and the play calling in the moment to unlock that level of potential.
After the Bama win, how different was it? Like, you're around campus, there's just it felt like that was kind of the birth of Vanderbilt football, at least for us. I mean, maybe you look at it differently. You're like, hey, we were in the building. We knew we expected to be special and compete and all that kind of stuff. But there's a national awareness that comes with a victory like that. So how did you notice things just being different, or how did that feel?
You started to feel the ripple out in the community. I think to your point, for us, the birth goes way back, and it's like, it's literally like having a child at times. In fact, I told this to the first team. It's, you have all these dreams and aspirations when you have your first child, and there's 9 months there where one day you think, my first child was my son, C3, and one day I'm like, man, this guy's going to be the president of the United States. The next day it's maybe he'll be a professional athlete. The next day it's like, I just want to be honest and hardworking and all that kind of stuff. And then one day he's born, and now you're holding all those hopes and dreams in your hands, and then he shits on you, and you can't give him back and say, hey, come back to me when you know how to go to the bathroom. It's like, as a parent, you realize in that moment, like, that's actually my job. I'm going to love and invest in this. And in time, all those hopes and dreams will be on the back end of that love and investment. And so to go back and say, like, that was the first 3 years in this program, and that was like co-parenting with the team and just trying to create alignment within our team body around what this needed to look like. When we beat Alabama last year, we were a 2-2 team that had started out hot, 2-0, and then we'd lost a game at Georgia State and then lost a game at Missouri. And so there was this kind of growing skepticism around the program that we had kind of beat back there in the first 2 weeks, that was kind of creeping back in. Well, we had a bye week, and we knew that we were really close, and we talked about it. And then we went out and put it all together and made it happen. At that point, the university community and the national community really started to pay attention to what we were doing. And it still has taken time for people to show up and get behind it. But like, our student section from that point forward became something that I'm really proud of. They saw the work going in, and they showed up, and they were investing in it too. And that's rippled into the greater university community and now into the national community. So certainly that was a big moment. I didn't really understand that at the time. It was just another game, and I think I'll learn a little more about it when I actually can take a step back and reflect on all of it. This thing goes like a whirlwind. So you're constantly in motion.
I want to talk about your backstory a little bit. So you start playing baseball, and then you start playing down the street. Because like, I've been there, I've been to the facilities. We mentioned before, Matt Bushman, both friends with him, played baseball, pitched for Vandy. So I got a bunch of looks when I was working out. I think it was just the baseball facility, which you don't see a lot, where I was like, what's this guy doing here? Your whole deal, like, were you just this guy down the street, and they're like, hey, there's this beast who plays baseball down the street. Let's see if he'll want to come play fullback at Vandy? I mean, how did that happen?
Well, let me be clear. There was actually no interest on Vanderbilt football's part in me playing football. I was at Birmingham Southern my first year, and I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. I guess every kid has aspirations, and I was a catcher. And they had brought another freshman catcher in who was a better player than I was. And I also kind of started to experience what we would call now the yips. We weren't talking like that at the time, but I was having trouble receiving the ball. It was miserable. The team wasn't. We won the NAIA World Series. It was a great experience, but I was not having fun playing. And so I transferred to Belmont my second year in hopes that, I thought if you left the place, maybe you left your problems behind and they didn't travel with you. Well, as it turns out, that's not true. And so kind of the mental hurdles I was trying to clear got worse at Belmont. And that's when I finally kind of just said, hey, maybe this isn't going to be a Major League Baseball career. Maybe that's not what is intended here. What's the best school I can get into? And I'd like to have sport be a part of my experience because it's always been so formative for me and like just a vessel for self-discovery. But it was no longer in pursuit of some kind of pro career. It was just, I want to be a part of a team. I want to have a role. I want to try to work to help improve something. And I missed playing football. Football is not, unless there's only a couple of positions that require fine motor skill. And so you don't get the yips running power and kicking out the defensive end. You just run yourself into another human. That's kind of like the difference. And so Bobby Johnson had just gotten the job here, and I had talked to his staff at Furman a little bit out of high school. And so I just reached out and met with them, and they were interested in having someone like me that was going to work hard. And, I think the program was in a very similar place to where it was when I took over here as head coach. And so I was a fullback here. I earned a scholarship, which was really cool. I had a little role. I played special teams and played, in some of our short yardage packages and stuff like that. And it was exactly what I needed, and I didn't realize that it would set the course for, this career and, a connection now to the program, to the school for a lifetime. I thought it was a neat experience. I got a really good school. I got a great education, and I was content with that.
As you're explaining this to me, and again, we've never talked before, but I'm thinking about, okay, early on, the thought in your head. I mean, as well as anybody, coaching in the SEC, every single guy that comes in and play football thinks he's playing on Sundays, and that's their own kind of journey. Mm-hmm. And you can relate to that, and you can relate to the team aspect of sacrificing yourself, playing the fullback position where it's not like you're getting a bunch of touchdown looks close to the goal line when you're playing. But, the big news out of Andy today is you get Jared Curtis coming in. It's the biggest recruit in the history of the football program, a 5-star quarterback. He flips from Georgia. What does your background do for you in recruiting?
Well, obviously, I can't comment on any recruit, and so I won't do that. I will tell you that, what I want in this program is people that want to play at the highest level. So if there aren't NFL aspirations in the heart of a prospect, this is not the right place for them. And that said, I also recognize that there's life beyond the game. But in our program, we believe better people make a better team. So this is like how you learn that we don't like live life in separate lanes. I'm not a student here and a son here and an athlete here, that we live in circle, and in a circle, like improvement in one area is improvement in all areas. So the demands we have for our players in their behavior on campus and their investment in their education are the same demands we have for them when it comes to the football game. Better people make a better team. So when I learn how to do things that I don't always want to do, but I learn to do them at a standard, that is how you become a great pro. And so we believe all the things that make up being a Vanderbilt football player are things going to allow people to extend a career for a long time in the NFL. We also believe that in pursuit of those dreams, the greatest part about football is that it is a vessel for self-discovery. So we will send off into the world young men with more awareness, more self-awareness, more understanding about who they are and where they are and the opportunities that are in front of them. And that way, I think, we strengthen communities. That's a core part of our mission. But the mission is winning. So we don't want guys to be well-rounded necessarily. We want them to be well lopsided. We want them to go all in on this football experience. We think playing and being successful in the SEC, you have to give yourself to the game. And what we know to be true is when guys give themselves to the game, first of all, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really painful. You're going to learn to suffer well. And you're going to learn that on the back end of suffering is the equal and opposite joy. And so you're willing to go a little further and a little longer and a little harder to know that the payoff is going to be worth it. And that, honestly, that is like the tenor of our recruiting. That's the message I give on my couch. I'm not a salesman. I don't sell. We reveal who we are, and we feel like the right people are drawn in. Keep in mind, this is a program where the players, we call our team the team of misfits. These guys have come from anywhere and everywhere. They were in most cases rejected by places that, said they weren't good enough. I feel the same way, me included, and so we kind of come together here with this common thread of a misfit attitude, and we've bound together to build something that we believe in. And that means we have to be committed to each other. We have to be committed to do hard things the right way. And that's been the foundation of our success to this point. And from this point forward, it's about how we level up, how we go a little further, but it's not going to be changing. We're not going to change who we are. We're not going to change our recruiting approach. We're not going to change our recruiting pitch. We're gonna call people into a level of suffering and sacrifice. Call people into a team environment where you don't have to make any compromises in your personal goals, but we're going to channel those personal goals through the team mission. And we believe ultimately that's going to deliver the best program in the country.
Okay, final thought, and I'm going to give you the floor here. We are taping this, just so the audience knows, before the committee rankings tonight. So I imagine you are waiting patiently on those. And, this is the time of year where, sure, there's a lot of campaigning, but there's also a lot on the resume that makes sense. So how are you looking at the rankings and where your program's positioned?
Well, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed to this point because I think that we've made great statements throughout the season around how good of a team we are, how dynamic of a team we are. We've learned to win and we've shown that we can win in different ways. And yet I think there's kind of this inherent bias in the way our program's perceived. I think that has a lot to do with the logo. Even to the point where, we go and beat Tennessee on the road. And that's a really good Tennessee program, a good Tennessee team. We beat them by 21 points. And I believe in the AP poll, we gave up ground somehow, some way, meaning we lost a spot. And so it doesn't seem straightforward to me right now. Here's what I'll tell you. We have a 10-2 team in the SEC. We were undefeated at home, 7-0. Our two losses are on the road at Alabama, at Texas. Both games they both played out differently. Both games we had opportunities to take the lead or win the game in the fourth quarter. We were close. We were within striking distance. Outside of that, we've finished our season with 3 consecutive league wins. Including a dominant performance at home against Kentucky and then a dominant performance on the road against Tennessee. So we're playing our best football here late in the season. We've got the 11th ranked strength of record in the country. There are only 4 teams ahead of us in the rankings that have a higher strength of schedule ranking. So we've done it against the best of the best. And we have the best offense in the country with what I believe the Heisman frontrunner playing quarterback for us. And he is a fun and dynamic player to watch. The college football world needs to embrace this team. This team deserves to be playing for a national championship. I think it's good for our game. It's the right thing to do. And if this were about blind resumes, there's no way that we wouldn't have a seat at that table. And so my hope is that they do the right thing. My hope is that they honor all those aspects and that they give us a chance to do exactly what we set out to do at January 7th. And if they're unwilling to do that, I've said, I'll go to Miami, I'll go to Utah, I'll go to Notre Dame, and we can play on Saturday, and we'll figure it out that way. I'm happy to do that. My team is ready to do that. We want a chance to win it all, and I think we've done enough to this point to earn that opportunity.
It's an incredibly impressive season. You're an impressive guy. Suffer well. I'm going to remember that for a long time. I kind of like that one. I don't know how many other people would be like into it, like, hey,
the right people will be.
Right. What the hell's wrong with you? But I really like it. And I appreciate the time. So we'll see what happens tonight. Again, it's going to run on Wednesday. And thanks for the time today.
Ryen, thank you so much. Good to be with you.
Before we get to life advice, the Alliance. marches on. Kyle, Steve with us. What do we got, Steve? Steve's frustrated already.
Yeah, I screwed us last week. I did. I was the only one wrong. I don't want to blame Con Knipple because I love him. So we're trying to get him on the pod. But he just didn't. I had him over 17.5 points. He didn't get there. And you had Aaron Holiday 3+ threes. I went to bed because that was like a West Coast game.
Yeah,
and he had no threes at halftime. I was like, cool, I'll be all right. And then I woke up and he had 3 threes the next morning. I was like, cool, I'm the asshole. So there you go. My bad.
Don't love your rooting motivation there. I think we should all be rooting for each other, to be honest.
I still want to be the one wrong, but it's okay.
Kyle, how are you today?
Good, just picking guys in King of the Court that aren't even playing, haven't been playing. So I outsourced this one today, my pick. So if it doesn't work, I'm going to be able to yell at that guy, and if it does work, then I'm going to take this alliance because
we did go over in King of the Court last night. Ryan had Maxey, Kyle Wemby, I had SGA. Hey, we've hit 3 of these, so we've actually 3 out of 5, so we're doing fine in King of the Court.
I'll put my hand up. I should just research if a guy's injured before. Although he was like second on the leaderboard, so
that's fine. Don't
maybe
worry.
we should pass that around a little bit, pass the blame. Anyway,
it happens once we release it. It's tricky every now and then. The lineups.
Ant went off last night, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. Ant was even though they were down to the Pelicans, had to come back in the fourth quarter, went to overtime with the Pelicans. You see a slight difference with a veteran team, offensive possessions versus another very young team. Although Queen had some awesome moments last night, and
he's good.
He's just so different, man. He's like an odd player, but at the same time, like he got 3 different ISOs. Like he went at Jaden McDaniels on the baseline. It was like, are you seriously? Like, you think you're going to be able to defend me? And he just went right through him. Then he got Nas, and then he decided to go at Rudy. He also had another, handful of other possessions where like, what the hell are you doing? But the passing with him is a thing that completely jumps out. So, look.
Is he like Gen Z Zebo?
He's a better passer.
I'm workshopping that one.
I like that. He's a better passer. No one's ever going to give that. Like, I think Jokic and Şengün lead the NBA in post touches per game. Not post touches, but post ups. Post touches is different. It's like 5. Remember, I'd always check in on that number with Al Jefferson. 20 a game. 20 true post ups a game.
Gen Zebo is a fun name. That's a fun name. Really nice job by you.
Gen Zebo.
It's fun. I don't know if you would enjoy being called that, but it's probably won't be a self.
Zebo's the man. I feel like that's a compliment.
Yeah,
I know, but if you're a guy and you're like another guy who's not even that like much far, you know what I mean? It's not like some legend from the 70s. It's like the guy was still around. I don't know if dudes like that. Anyway, I like the name. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, here's our picks for tonight for the Alliance with DraftKings Sportsbook. What did I have? I've got the Magic.
Yeah, they're -7.5 against the Spurs at home tonight. So, you want to take the 7.5?
Yeah, I'll just lay the 7.5.
Okay. Kyle, you go. I'll bring up the rear since I was.
All right, this is my outsourced Knicks pick from a guy who I turned on to DraftKings, and he's been super annoying about it, sending me all his $5 wins. But so I'm hoping this hits for me, and if it doesn't, hoping that he feels pretty bad about it. But we've got Jalen Brunson under 29.5 tonight.
Okay, I'm going to ride the Jalen train. I'm going to take Jalen Johnson 2+ threes against the Clippers tonight. Basically just a bet against the Clippers. They also give up a ton of threes. He's done this in 10 of 11 games. I can't believe this line is that low. It's -139. So, and
also a fun bet, a super fun bet when you're watching. Like, dude, he could hit the second one anytime.
You're just like, shoot it. Yeah,
it's kind of the best way to watch a basketball game, to just bet one guy 2 or more threes.
Yeah, yep. Because that's one, if you get it early, you're like, oh, I'm the man. Yeah. And then realistically, you're probably sweating that out.
Gets one in the first quarter, and it's just the game is that much better than the rest. That's great.
Correct. All right, that gets us 5 plus 559. It's good odds there.
Love it.
Let's go.
Okay, check it out. All the latest lines for you on DraftKings.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice. Email address is lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We've got a few emails to read through here, but I just cannot let this go without talking about it. I don't know how many of you guys saw this online last night. Kevin Spacey, Song and Dance Man, back in the news. If you Google this, you can see it anywhere on social media. He's basically doing this It's not a one-man show because he's got a band behind him, but he's obviously the attraction. And he was doing some tap dance. He was crooning, and then he busts out the harmonica, which again, my harmonica rant is once again proven true that there's a lot of guys just whipping out the harmonica, and if you have the right key, you just breathe into the thing, and it kind of sounds like you know what you're doing. You've learned a couple licks would be nice. He went 0 licks. And the crowd went fucking wild because he pulled out a harmonica. It's just it's crowd candy. The crowd cannot help themselves from being so excited about somebody busting out a harmonica. So anyway, I Googled the story because I was like, who was like, hey, Kevin Spacey's live tonight. Let's go.
Social Security recipients. That's who. I mean, they all have AARP cards. That's
You
that's
think
a
so?
fact. I think absolutely.
You can't tell anybody you went either, right? Because they're going to be like, "What?"
I think they can. I think they totally can.
It was in Tel Aviv, and the headline said, Kevin Spacey played to a crowd of hundreds in Tel Aviv on Wednesday. Hundreds. That makes a little bit more sense.
Yes, it does.
But still, it's just that conversation. Be like, hey, we went to see Kevin Spacey. Like, hey, say what you want about the guy, but damn, is he versatile. That guy's got range.
Extra ticket to Kevin Spacey tonight solo. You interested?
Is that solo like one-man show? Is that sort of like the Vegas residency for actors? Because there really isn't anything like that, but that's kind of what it is, right? It's like you hit a certain point and somebody convinces you to do it, and you're like, all right, this could work.
I watch the Roy Firestone thing once a year. It blows. You guys don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
I need to.
I'm thinking of the Everybody Loves Raymond episode where he goes on TV for Roy Firestone, but other than that, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Roy
I don't think
was
I do.
An incredible early days ESPN run, up close, I think. Those interview shows are terrific. But there's more going on in that guy's head. And he would do these one-man Vegas shows, and they would interview people leaving the shows, and you would have thought they saw Jesus.
Really?
Like they're coming out in the lobby going like, I knew it was going to be good. I had no idea we were going to get Muhammad Ali and Sammy Davis Jr. impersonations at the exact same time. And then there was like motivational speeches and stuff. I think Roy's like the 5-tool guy. I watch it once a year just to be inspired. All right. So that's how I get myself ready. That's how I attack life.
Speaking of Kevin Spacey, I did rewatch 7 last month. Man.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, it had been like probably over 10 years. I hadn't seen it in a long time.
That seems like the right amount of time.
Didn't know the ending. Tough.
That seems like the right amount of time between watch.
All right. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Mine was great. The whole family got together in my hometown of Las Vegas. Overall, it was a really good time. Being the middle of 3 brothers and the 4th of 5 kids, I'm used to a little chaos, but something happened that I seriously need your and perhaps the wider tribunal's opinion on. Everything was, hey, it's like to hear about your Thanksgiving. Everything was going smoothly on Thanksgiving Day until we tried to take a family picture with my siblings and mother. My 42-year-old brother decided it'd be hilarious to stick his fingers into... What?
Wow. What a pause.
Is it a spelling thing, or are you just figuring out how to say this?
Well, he's missing a word.
I don't even know where this is going to go. I have no idea.
I think his older brother was trying to give him a prostate exam during the photos. Like that would be the joke.
All right, so it's dudes. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
older brother. Yeah,
you've seen guys in the NFL do that. Guys score a touchdown. It happens in soccer actually a lot, which is I don't love that.
What do you see a lot?
The old finger in the bum situation. You mess with a guy. I don't know. I'm not pumped about saying it. It just happens. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
I'll send you some videos. Actually, maybe I won't after.
Yeah, don't send us. But thanks.
I don't even Google that. Anyway, okay.
The old finger in the bum celebration. I guess I missed that one.
Just guys being dudes. Yeah.
Fumble. Awesome. This went on for 15 seconds, and I told him to stop multiple times. 15 seconds, dude. But he just kept going and thoroughly annoyed the crap out of me. After the picture, I was ready to just move on, but then I noticed again, my 40-year-old brother start recounting the story of several of my in-laws who were not part of the picture. For the next little while, I noticed a lot of laughing and multiple people glancing in my direction. At this point, the momentary annoyance quickly turned into serious anger. A few minutes later, I went to sit down near him on the couch trying to forget about it, but the in-laws were still laughing about the experience. We got some heated dudes around the holidays with family members. More jokes were sent my way, and I told my brother to shut up about it, but the laughing continued. In a moment of pure desperation and maybe some time travel back to being a 12-year-old, I decided to punch him in the balls. Once I did it, I immediately said, "I'm sorry for punching you in the balls," end quote, and walked away. And that was the end of it. So here's the question. Did I handle this the wrong way? Was I being overly emotional at the age of 37?
Yeah.
How should I have handled it instead? For context, I generally have a great relationship with my family and don't hold any resentment going forward. I was just actually annoyed for those 5 minutes and desperately wanted the embarrassment and the behavior to stop. And well, it stopped. Let me know your ruling.
That's kind of like the nuke. That's like dropping the nuke, right? We kind of we've talked about this before. We never want to go back there to where we have to guard our balls. I guess you could say you shouldn't have to want to, you could say you shouldn't want to have to guard your ass too. But I mean, one of them is way more.
Which one's worse?
One's way worse than the other one. I'll
be
able to get over. I'll be able to get over some guys.
Actually, not
joke.
That bad comparatively to what actually happened. So I think you're okay.
I'd be able to get over some guys like finger in the butt joke, I guess, more than like he just actually hit me in the balls in front of. It doesn't even matter who's around. That's really.
I don't know.
It's been so long. I'm trying. I remember how bad it was, but like a guy really like wound up.
Would you rather somebody punch you in the nuts or stick their finger in your ass? Like that feels like.
Well, he's got clothes on. There's no way it could go in, right?
I mean,
sweatpants. What if there's some of those fashionable sweatpants?
Yeah.
Going
for the family Christmas photo? Come on,
$200 sweatpants.
We can assume.
I think cashmere. Who knows what's possible?
Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't have done that, but I don't know. Maybe you just open Pandora's box, dude. Maybe
I
New
think
Year's
it's totally
Eve,
fine.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. It's all on the table after something like that. And the great thing is I think in most scenarios, you're right. Like you're gonna hit me in the nuts, dude. Like we have kids, and you're gonna do this. But how can you possibly say that after what you just did during the photo? And it sounds like our guy didn't like being looked at. The leering is what really got him down. It wasn't the physical assault; it was the leering, and maybe even some preconceived. Like, did he think he was being judged? Did you not like it enough?
But that's what I don't understand too is like,
where's this anger coming from?
The brother, not only does he do this insane act, but then he goes around telling all the family members about it, and they're pumped about it, and they're looking at you like you're the loser. Like, I think you had every right to punch your brother.
You should have punched them all.
Yeah, you should punch him in the face.
And it could be tough to get those old folks to laugh. And if you found something that those guys think is hilarious, that's just sometimes a generational divide. It's like you guys can't even watch the same TV shows. They're like, this is stupid. Trying to explain, I think you should leave to somebody in their 60s. It's just not worth it, And apparently this just hit the sweet spot. So that must be extra annoying. I don't think I would have hit him in the balls, though.
Yeah, all right. Mom doing a solo trip.
Quick aside, really quick.
Sure.
Do you know how many texts I've gotten today? And honestly, we even fooled some of our production staff about your Chris Paul text this morning or tweet this morning. I've had people be like, "Is Ryen
real?
okay?"
Ryen loves when people think
multiple people.
Yeah.
Our DraftKings guy was like, "Hey, I know there's no show today, but can we still get the Alliance pick?" I'm like, we have a show today.
I should have done that then. I should have done that.
I literally just got a text saying, "Hey, saw Ryan's tweet. Is he okay? What's up?"
So when the Chris Paul announcement happened this morning, I sent out a tweet that says, "No show today." When I gave the 2 alert bookends, that gets people's attention big time.
That's why I knew it definitely wasn't real.
Yeah. Taking a personal day, no show today. Meanwhile, we already taped half the show. So there was never a question of not doing a show. I would never. Yeah, but maybe I shouldn't have done that because I just started working here, and then who knows? People at Barstool could have been like, "Wait, this guy's like emotionally soft. Chris Paul's done with the Clippers. He's not even retiring. Like that's after the season. He's probably going to get picked up by somebody."
You love that no context shit. What are you talking? You love that no context shit.
I do.
You really do.
But I don't know that I should have done it at a place that I've been at less than 2 months.
Yeah, unlimited PTO in my contract, dude. I don't know what you got.
Did you?
Yeah.
But do you though?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, right? That's that's the tightrope.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I apologize to all those people. Well, won't they be excited when they see a pod come out today?
Yeah. Hey,
A good one, too.
fighting through it, it's a tough one.
I didn't cause you like a headache, right?
No, it's just funny
Right.
to me that a lot of people just did not get it at all.
No.
But
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 that's
thanks
not
for
their
checking in.
fault.
People care
Yeah.
about you, dude. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Paul's not going to be the guy that gets me off the air. I do wonder what that would be. Like, hey, I'm not doing the show this week. All right. I guess I'm
I
going
don't
to
even
sit
know.
there
Yeah, I
and
don't
list
even
a
know
bunch
the
of
answer.
different
Yeah, I
things.
could list, but I don't.
What would bum
Yeah.
Ryan out the most? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Right. I don't think it's boat sank.
I still think you do a show.
I do a show.
Yeah.
We're going to do a show from the boat. We've decided.
Get tech on that. Yeah.
Well, we got the Starlink,
Starlink.
From
Yeah,
the
I was going to
Pacific.
say.
but I think somebody's using mine because I got a warning of like how much data came down. I'm like, somebody has clearly hacked into my Starlink and they're just using it and probably canceled or froze theirs. So we get a security on that one. All right. Gentlemen, 24 years old, 6'2", 205. I peaked at 300 pounds playing offensive line in college despite losing significant mass, can still throw 315 around to the bench, 4 or 5 reps. Damn,
Cool.
at 205, dude. Maybe his body, his body apparently is kind of like agrees with the weight, right? Is used to having that. And then there's like a mental thing. It's like, hey, I've done this numerous times, perhaps, Who knows what we're capable of?
Hasn't
when we
even
just get
have
those
you even
mental
counted
barriers.
backwards yet. We don't even know. Have you
Yeah.
even tried counting backwards?
Yeah, start at 7, work your way down to 1. Also approaching a 20-minute 5K, just to give you the full picture. Pickup comp is Zach Randolph. Perfect timing.
Sick.
What a show.
Yeah. What a show. Perfect show? Is there a perfect show? That's my new book.
Mm.
It's going to be next Christmas.
Smart.
I'm a longtime listener, have thoroughly enjoyed the travelogues, Ryan's experience in the Basque country. I feel like there's nobody more qualified to help me with the situation. I don't know. Some people really didn't like that I didn't explore the foodie culture as much. So that one was kind of a split response, I felt like. For some background, my parents split up a few years ago. They did some international travel together over the years. And the first time since the divorce, my mom is looking to go on a trip. She's currently planning on visiting San Sebastian and crossing into France to hike the Comet Line. This stems from her interest in the French resistance in World War II and the escape route, which transported down Allied airmen through the Pyrenees. I'm a bit apprehensive of my mom traveling on her own, if nothing else. Need some reassurance from someone who's visited this particular region. My mom's in her early 50s, in good shape. Not been on a solo international trip. Should I feel comfortable with her visiting this area alone? I'm not familiar with the safety of this area, although I don't want to be a cynic. We learned that even a notably safe city like Tokyo has some dangerous parts. Was there anything in your experience which would concern you? I feel like it's my duty as her son to make sure she isn't going to be putting herself in any remotely precarious situations. Love to hear your thoughts. Also curious if there's been any talk of joining forces with Wonton Don to expand your travel content. I love Donnie. I think he's fucking awesome. I never will forget was he in Vietnam on mushrooms, canoeing? Like, that's when you just went, oh my God. Like, this guy's on another level. The stuff that he does with Biz, I think is terrific. My problem is the schedule doesn't really allow for me to just kind of do something like that. Would I love to be a full-time travel guy? Sure.
That wasn't my question. Would you want to go with somebody else?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know how I do, but I think I'd get along with him fine. But I just don't know how that would work. It would probably like freak me out, and then cameras and the whole thing.
Be authentic. Yeah.
It just wouldn't feel necessarily the same, even though a travel thing with no visual, I'm surprised anybody likes this. So let's did we run those 3 pictures from London just forever on the YouTube thing?
I think there were some other ones in there too, but we definitely ran the 3. And the thumbnail was excellent. So shout out to Tom.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Finished the
I'll
pod,
tell you,
by the way, yesterday. It was really nice.
Oh, you listened to it?
I did. Finished it. I was almost done by the time we had our last show. Really, my favorite part was probably the cat facts in the beginning. I was almost going to tweet like some really interesting cat facts in the first 10 minutes.
They love
the
cats
makeup
over
thing.
there.
The makeup thing, I thought, I want to be careful, but it was spot on.
What? The girls?
It just gets I don't know, like the British makeup thing, for some reason, it's just like caked on. I don't get it.
I don't understand it either. There's this like thing where the cheeks are so bright and the contour stuff with the nose is like, it's almost
it's
like
very tan too, though. Like they're not
AI.
Like their hands are pale white and then their face is just really tan. It's like nobody notices that.
Kind of like middle school where I grew up. It's how it is there. Yeah.
And
8th grade was a lot of that.
I would tell you, of all the places that I've traveled, I mean, she's not going to be in a major city, depending on where she's going to fly into. She's going to be in and out of there. I found it to be, like, I understand my experience as a male walking around as opposed to your mom could be slightly different. I would have no concerns whatsoever as far as like international travel and somewhere you can go where you feel entirely safe. Like my favorite thing about San Sebastian is you were there and you were like, I could just hang out here for a really long time. Like I've got my routine. It's not too small that it's going to get boring. It's not too big that it feels overwhelming. It's a city, but it's really just this one stretch. It's all in front of you that's cut in half by this canal of like the new version versus the old version. And you can walk the entire thing easily within a day. I would tell her to head over to Biarritz, but she doesn't really love too much congestion. I was there on a really, really busy day, but Biarritz itself I'm so glad that I drove up there and did that whole thing. I don't know anything about the hiking trail. So yes, Athens, no, for your mom. San Sebastian, yes. Kingston, Jamaica, maybe not. Saint-Tropez, yeah. I think she'd be fine. Look, I think San Sebastian's perfect. I think it's perfect, like, base. My thing is I was there, left, and then was like, you know what? I hit up a couple other places, and I'm like, I'm coming back. That's how much I liked it. So, yeah.
Love it.
You guys felt left out on that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We had a long pod today. We keep this short.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we just end with a really quick one then. Ryan's throw pillow ad, quote, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Do you think that's a praise for the creativity of that, or do you think
how is it written? How is it? Any
pretty
punctuation? Any punctuation in there or no?
Just a question mark. Nothing else. If you haven't figured out with the ads, I know this frustrates people, but it's probably like the most affordable content, podcasting. So maybe sometimes you shouldn't get too pissed off about certain things. But every now and then we try to make the ads something that you might listen to, even if you hate them.
Also, sounds like a guy who doesn't own his bedroom, probably is just renting it. So,
Whoa.
God damn.
All right, that'll do it for the show today. Thank you to Kyle and Steve for hanging out. Again, check out our NBA mailbag, nbamailbag@gmail.com. We have a good 10 minutes that's out today on the YouTube page, so please subscribe to all the stuff.
Thursday morning.
Subscribe on Thursday morning? Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, please subscribe to all the stuff. That's the name of this whole deal and getting the relaunch going. So thank you again, and we'll be back with, what do we got? We got Booger
and Von Miller.
And
then maybe a little Lions Cowboys talk, because that's a big game Thursday night.
Yeah, so we're building out a really nice front seven for you the next episode. The Ryen Russillo Show, part of the Barstool Network.